So first off, the A, the architecture, the build of your website, the hosting, the structure, the speed. As I mentioned before, your speed test. So this is a great result for Davis Saperstein. These guys have 100 out of 100 on Google's page speed insights. Why is that important? Well, remember in the old days when you click on a Google result, you'd go to a website and the thing would be spinning or the website would be really, really old. That doesn't happen very often anymore because Google is on the first page of Google. They're putting websites that are updated and fast because they know that if the thing's spinning, we're all going to hit the back button and we're going to go back to the Google search. And Google knows that. They're tracking it. So you've got to make sure your website's fast or they're just not going to put you on the first page. Your website also has to be mobile friendly. Here's a rank checker, and this website only got 52 out of 100. It's got 73 criticals and over 1,000 warnings. So the site's not mobile friendly. You want to have a sitemap. And this is kind of old school. Remember in the old days, we used to go to the sitemap to try and find our way around websites. And sometimes if I can't find something, I still look for the sitemap. So it's not as important because Google knows how to navigate sites better these days. The old robots on Google used to look for the sitemap and navigate around the site. But now you should have an HTML sitemap. And this is maybe the first question to ask your agency. And in Google's Webmaster Tools, or it's now called Search Console, there's an HTML tool. HTML is website code, and you can feed the code to Google in your Webmaster Tools. So basically now you can proactively send Google your sitemap, and you want to do that on a regular basis as you're updating your website. Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time zone you're watching. And if you're watching this on our recording, welcome to the 10 Golden Rules monthly webinar series. My name is Jay Berkowitz, and today we're going to talk about the AIBCs of SEO. And you're probably wondering, wait a minute, I signed up for the ABCs of SEO. So whether you're watching this live on Zoom or on LinkedIn or sometime later on YouTube or one of our social media channels, today we're going to break down search engine optimization. How do you get found on Google and the other search engines? But of course, everything's AI these days, and about 30% of the search results are coming up as the new Google AI overviews on Google. And of course, so many people are searching on ChatGPT and Perplexity. So we're starting to see these AI searches coming up about 30% of the time. So we couldn't talk about search engine optimization today without talking about how to optimize for the answer engines. So a lot of us are calling it AEO, answer engine optimization, in addition to search engine optimization. So bear with me. We'll go through the ABCs, we'll go through the AIs and the AEOs, and we'll have a lot of fun today, answer some questions at the end. And thank you so much for being here. Search engine optimization. There was a recent leak of the Google backend codes, and all these Google documents got leaked. Some people think Google actually did it on purpose so that we know how comprehensive and how complex the Google ranking guides are. We found out there's over 14,000 ranking factors that decide whether you go on page 1 of Google or page 1,000. So today we're going to try and break it down and make it really simple to explain what you need to know, what you need to do, and what you need to ask your agency or your web developers, because they're probably going to learn some advanced things today that you're going to want to check with your web guys. So first of all, A is the architecture. Now, simplifying 14,000 things down to A, B, and C, architecture is the structure of your website. So first of all, it's very important that your website is fast. You've got to go to the page speed insights and make sure that your website downloads quickly, because if it doesn't, Google's not going to rank you highly. We're going to talk about a lot of technical things like ADA compliance, the Americans with Disabilities Act, and this website's a big fail. We're going to talk about some advanced things like the code, the back-end structure of the code and the architecture of the website. The B is backlinks. How many other sites link to you, link to your site to make your site more popular in the eyes of Google? These guys have over 9,000 backlinks to their website. And the C is content. A lot of discussion today is going to be about answering questions, because a search query is essentially a question, And our client is right at the top of the results here with an answer to a question. And what is content? Well, it's not just words, it's videos, it's pictures, it's everything that occurs on your website and frankly throughout the internet. So we'll get into all that today. And have you fallen off the Google cliff? This is an analysis of how many different keyword terms a website ranks for, and they've fallen down from 1,200 to 439. So if you're starting to see this kind of reduction in traffic from the internet, let us know. You can just give Chris a shout out in the chat or the Q&A section, or if you're on LinkedIn, just send us a note and we'll book some time with you. And obviously, if you're watching after the fact, go to 10goldenrules.com. The other thing that's really, really important in SEO today is Google Maps SEO. And frankly, the maps appears above the SEO in most of the search results. So we're going to talk about how do you get ranked in this all-important area of SEO, search engine optimization, because the maps is a free search result that appears above the SEO in most cases. So we're going to talk a lot about the ABCs, the basics of SEO. We're going to talk about AI SEO, artificial intelligence SEO, and we're going to talk about Maps SEO today as we get into it. So do me a favor, if you're here and you're really an expert and you're really looking for that advanced kind of stuff, I just want to get a gauge for the audience. So put a G in chat if you're a Google guru and you're just looking for the advanced stuff. And if you're kind of a newbie, or maybe your boss just said, hey, go watch this webinar and learn something about the internet, please put an N in the chat. So if I know we've got some startups here or some folks who are new to search engine optimization. And lastly, if you're shy and you just don't like putting your hand up in webinars, put an S in the chat for me, just so I know. And I'll get a gauge here in my audience. Okay, great. Thank you so much. So it looks like we got a mix. We got some newbies, a couple gurus in the house. Next thing, congratulations for being here. And if you're watching today live with us, great. If you're sometime in the future, it's awesome to have you here. But I want you to know that you're a part of a very small minority of folks who actually take the time to get better. And the people that I see at the conferences are generally the people, the firms that are succeeding. They're in the top 5 to 10% in their marketplaces. Same thing in my industry, like the folks who go to the conferences, invest the time to learn, read the books, watch the webinars, and produce their own content. That's one of the best ways to learn. You folks are the winners, and you're generally going to be leading the pack. So what are we going to do today? We're going to first understand the key strategies for getting your law firms ranked in Google. And by the way, if you're not a law firm, 10 Golden Rules works now almost exclusively with law firms. And so we are going to use examples from law firms and from personal injury law firms because that's the majority of our clients. But these same strategies and everything you're learning here today is relevant for ranking on Google, regardless of your industry. We're going to tap on Google local maps, as I mentioned. We're going to talk about the AI SEO or AEO, Answer Engine Optimization. I'm going to give you a free workbook download. So if you want to get something to follow along with and use, I'll give you that download on the next slide. And then I'm going to tell you a little bit about myself, where I come from, and why I'm qualified to talk about these things. So if you want to download the workbook, you can just grab a screenshot of this now live, or go to www.10goldenrules.com/hot-trends, 2 T's, HOTTTRENDS. And actually, some folks will be listening to this on our audio podcast. So welcome to our podcast audience sometime in the future. 10goldenrules.com/hot-trends to download the workbook. So without further ado, a little bit about me. I come from Winnipeg, Canada. This is a beautiful picture of City Park. And trust me, it's gorgeous right now because we're recording this in July of 2025. But in the winter, the big lake becomes a skating rink. Winnipeg completely freezes over. But we got super lucky, and my wife Bonnie and I moved to beautiful Boca Raton, Florida. There's Bonnie and Parker hanging out in beautiful Boca Raton. Now, I've been a director of marketing for McDonald's and Coca-Cola early in my career, and then I moved to a .com called ediets.com. I went from selling Big Macs to selling diets. And when I was at eDiets, I was asked to speak at the Direct Marketing Association. And I wrote this book, The 10 Golden Rules of Online Marketing, and gave this presentation at the Direct Marketing Association. And a bunch of people came up to me at the end and they said they wanted to hire me as a consultant. So I've been consulting with folks at 10 Golden Rules as a full-fledged digital marketing agency for over 24 years now. So these two books, The Internet 10 Free Strategies and The Intern's Guide to Digital Marketing, are Amazon bestsellers. This was an early book. In 2018, I started talking about artificial intelligence, Bitcoin, and blockchain. And my new book is coming out this year called Advanced Internet Marketing for Law Firms. We're proud to say we just passed 1 million views on YouTube and our social media. And if you like this format, if you like these kind of webinars, please go to our YouTube channel and you can learn about law firm growth, the hottest technology strategies, local search, Google pay-per-click, ChatGPT and AI. The 6 parts of Google is very popular. All of that's available on our YouTube channel. 10 Golden Rules, as I mentioned, is our internet marketing agency, and we help law firms with growth strategies. So we help them attract more visitors, convert, and we work on 5-star operations. These are some of the clients we work with all across the country, some super big brands. And I like to share one quick case study. As a matter of fact, this is also available as one of our webinars, and you can learn how Brian Garrett, as he says it in the webinar, he wasn't ranking for hardly anything. Now everything to do with car wrecks, he's ranking on the top of Google. And we see he went from 65 keywords to ranking for over 1,000 keywords. And that's an SEO measure. And he was signing 10 or 15 cases a month. And now he's regularly signing 37, 45, 50 cases a month. So this stuff can really work. So without further ado, let's get into the ABCs of SEO. And this is just a screenshot. This is if you did a search for personal injury lawyer, just to lay out the different parts of Google for some of those newbies. So right at the very top of search are Google screened local service ads, also called LSAs. We call them LSAs or screened. And the best thing about these is you only pay per lead and you get phone calls. So we love the LSAs. There's a couple whole webinars on LSAs on our YouTube channel, but we're not going to be talking about that today. We're also not going to be talking about pay per click, the paid ads on Google, but typically you're going to see a couple of the paid impressions right at the top of the screen. And Google's marking those with sponsored. They're recognizing, okay, these are paid ads. This is organic. Next up is the Google Maps. As I mentioned, often appears up above the SEO. We have people also ask, which is other questions or other terms that would be similar to the thing you search. And then the SEO, search engine optimization, down at the bottom of the page. Now, if we scroll down, this is just a screenshot, we'd see 10 SEO results or organic free results. Google has consistently shown 10 per page, and then you see some more paid ads go to the next page, the next page. We like to simplify. How do you get listed in the organic results from 14,000 different things down to 3? 3 things you need to know: architecture, backlinks, and content. And then, of course, we'll get into the AI overviews after we go through ABC's maps, and we'll talk about how you get ranked in these new AI search results. So first off, the A, the architecture, the build of your website, the hosting, the structure, the speed. As I mentioned before, your speed test. So this is a great result for Davis Saperstein. These guys have 100 out of 100 on Google's page speed insights. Why is that important? Well, remember in the old days when you click on a Google result, you'd go to a website and the thing would be spinning or the website would be really, really old? That doesn't happen very often anymore because Google is on the first page of Google. They're putting websites that are updated and fast because they know that if the thing's spinning, we're all going to hit the back button and we're going to go back to the Google search. And Google knows that. They're tracking it. So you've got to make sure your website's fast or they're just not going to put you on the first page. Your website also has to be mobile friendly. Here's a rank checker, and this website only got 52 out of 100. It's got 73 criticals and over 1,000 warnings. So the site's not mobile friendly. You want to have a sitemap. And this is kind of old school. Remember in the old days, we used to go to the sitemap to try and find our way around websites. And sometimes if I can't find something, I still look for the sitemap. So it's not as important because Google knows how to navigate sites better these days. The old robots on Google used to look for the sitemap and navigate around the site. But now you should have an HTML sitemap. And this is maybe the first question to ask your agency. And in Google's Webmaster Tools, or it's now called Search Console, there's an HTML tool. HTML is website code, and you can feed the code to Google in your Webmaster Tools. So basically now you can proactively send Google your sitemap And you want to do that on a regular basis as you're updating your website. Now, next thing from a technical architectural standpoint is you want to have nice, clean code on your website. So you want to have a page name. So this is our homepage, but like if it was our podcast page, we'd want to call it 10goldenrules.com/internet marketing podcast. And then we'd want to name the page Internet Marketing Podcast. And the H1 title, the meta tags are, again, this is technical stuff for the developers, but the H1 title tag, here our page title tag is Lawyer Advertising, Internet Marketing for Law Firms, 10 Golden Rules. So we're getting keywords in there. Basically, this is an opportunity for you to get additional keywords and tell Google, because Google reads the code, hey, this page is all about internet marketing for law firms. And then on the page, you've got to have the words internet marketing for law firms. And your H1 is your title. The title on the page that the consumer actually sees should say internet marketing for law firms, so that you're consistent. There's other tags that you can feed into the search engines, like alt tags and image names. That's like in the old days, you used to hover over a picture and the name of the picture would come up, but that data is still there. That code is still there. Google Analytics. Everybody should have Google Analytics on your website. This is free software that'll tell you how many people came to your website, where did they come from, how long did they spend, what pages did they go to, what pages did they leave from. So there's great data that you can get for free from Google with Google Analytics. And again, I mentioned this briefly, Search Console used to be called Webmaster Tools. This is a question for your agency and your web guys. Do you have Search Console on the website? Because Search Console is going to give you a whole bunch of tips on how you can improve your SEO. It's free from Google, and Google wants the web to work better, so they want your stuff to work great. And so you should have Search Console on your website. Then the backend code. There's some sophisticated things, and a lot of people don't know this. If you right-click on your mouse, a box comes up, and then you can view page source, and then you can see the source code. So in this case, we've got schema code on the website. There's over 800 schema codes. But basically what this is Google and Yahoo and all the search engines got together about 10 years ago, and they said, let's come up with some standardized code that'll make it super easy for our search engines to understand some of the basic things on the internet. Things like local business, legal service, attorney, FAQ page. There's now over 800 schema codes. If you're not using schema codes, you're not making it easy for the search engines to find out who you are, where you are, and a lot of the basic things that make it easy for the search engines to scan your site. And if it's easy, they're going to put you on the first page of Google, right? So next question for your web guys, do we have schema code? Another thing that is very, very common these days, and particularly on WordPress websites, and over 40% of the new websites that are built today are built in WordPress, which is just a simple set of code that's easy. There's thousands of people who know how to work in WordPress, and Google likes it. It ranks really well. So we recommend building websites in WordPress these days. So there's plugins for WordPress that make it super easy to do SEO, like the all-in-one or the Yoast or the Elementor plugin that makes it easy for you to put SEO code on your website. I mentioned this briefly at the start, the Americans with Disabilities Act. And this is another scanner tool that we use to see if the website is compliant with the ADA. Now, why does that matter? Well, first of all, if somebody's visually impaired, they use a reader to read the website out loud to them. And essentially, it's a robot, and that robot reads through the website. But if the robot has problems, like in this case, we see that there's a code that's the same color as the background and things like that. So it makes it very, very hard for the robot to read the website. That means it's obviously going to be a problem for someone who's visually disabled to have the website read to them. But also it's very much a problem for Google because their robots read the websites the same way. So you want to make sure your website is like ADA friendly so that obviously you're not offending folks or making it impossible for folks to read your website out loud, and you want it to work for Google. So the first section, architecture. And there's a lot of things that a professional search engine company would do on your behalf, but some of the high level things you need to know. Site's got to be fast. If it doesn't download quickly, Google's just not going to put you on the first page. Mobile test. Make sure it works on mobile equally as well as it works on a desktop. And frankly, for law firms, 60 or 70% of your traffic is going to be searched from mobile phones. You got to have clean code, meta tags, titles, headers. You should have Search Console, analytics code on your website. It's free from Google, and it allows you to understand how your website's working, and the Search Console will give you advanced tips and show you errors on your website that you can fix. You want to have plugins, and then some of the advanced things, schema code, and make sure you're ADA compliant. Now, in the backlink section, I love to tell the story of the founding of Google. And these two guys, Larry Page and Sergey Brin, this is a picture of them in the garage where they started Google. And, what's so cool about the founding of Google is that there was 14 or 15 other search engines when the guys founded Google. And they were doing their PhDs at Stanford at the time. We remember some of these iconic names like Ask Jeeves and Lycos, Excite, Yahoo, AltaVista, InfoSeek. And all of these different technology companies were able to show you everybody on the internet who had a keyword on the internet. Basically, that's what a search is, right? If you say personal injury attorney near me, the search result is going to show you all the websites that have the words personal injury attorney near and me. And then hopefully on the first page, they're going to be the ones that have all of those keywords. And then they're also going to show you if they only have near or me or stuff like that. So basically, that's how a search engine works. It shows you websites that have the words that you searched. Now, obviously, it's gotten more and more sophisticated. But in the early days, what differentiated Google from all these other guys was backlinks, because they were doing their PhDs and they understood that if you wrote a paper and other people referenced your paper, you grew in prominence in academia. Well, if you create a website and other websites link to your website and they say, hey, go to 10goldenrules.com. There's great information there about SEO and internet marketing for law firms, and other people link to 10 Golden Rules, that's like other people linking to my paper if I wrote an academic paper. And so it means my website's more valuable, more important in the eyes of Google. So basically, backlinks are links from other websites to your website that make you more prominent in Google's eyes. And that's the one thing that these guys figured out that none of the search engines that came before them figured out. So you want to have lots of other websites linking to your website. Think of it like this graph that actually is in our search tools that shows us all the websites that link to, in this case, one of our clients' websites. And these in the green are all in the legal community. So these are things like bestlawyers.com and newyorkcourts.gov and Justy and LexisNexis and IP Leaders, right? And they're linking either directly to our client site or through a link graph to our client site. Other important sites like a .edu or a .gov, here's MIT and Harvard that essentially are linking to this website. And there's a number of tools. This one is SEMrush or Ahrefs, I'm not sure, Ahrefs. These guys have 9,000 links to their website. You also want to look at good links and bad links. And there's reports that we grab to identify how many are high toxicity. So there's 88 toxic links to this website. You got to get rid of those toxic links because that's sending bad juju to your website. So essentially, what's toxic? Casino sites, gambling sites, porn sites, foreign sites, scammer, spammer sites, right? And a lot of those guys want to link to your sites for different nefarious reasons. So what you can do is ask those websites to delink you. And then if that fails, you go to Google and you can do what's called a disavow. Now, Google's saying, oh, you don't have to do it. It's not that important. But a lot of times Google, they tell you things like this, but we still believe in the industry that's a best practice. Now, what are good examples of links that we build for our clients or that you can go out and get? Here's a link from the American Judicial System website, and it links to our client, and it's what's called an anchor text link. So the link isn't just the name of the website. The link says Florida Accident Attorney. And when you can get keywords in the anchor text, that's even better. Here's one linking to our client in Austin, and the link is Austin Personal Injury Attorneys. We also do very creative things to get high value links, like coming up with a scholarship program. Now, this has been done for many years by a lot of us in the industry, but it's still a good tactic. Here's a link from the Miami Law School to one of our clients, a link from Cornell, a .gov link, and public relations links. And this is a strategy we've come up with where we actually write an article for the journalist. The journalist pitches the article to a major publication like USA Today, And then we're able to get links to our clients. This is like an Uber and rideshare article on USA Today, and this one on MSN about self-driving car accidents. So we come up with the concept, we pitch, the journalist pitches the major publication, and we get our clients featured in these links. And these are other links. There's a number of websites that journalists post looking for experts, and we tap into those resources and we get our clients listed as experts in articles where the journalists are actually looking to give you a link. So A is architecture, B is backlinks. And the most important thing I like to differentiate here is these are links from other websites to your website. We're looking for high quality links, relevant industry websites. So in that legal example I showed you, links from other legal websites and from the legal industry and from the big prominent legal directories are very valuable in Google's eyes because it shows that you're prominent in the legal industry. Local links. So if you're a local business, and law firms are for the most part, you want to get links from your local community, from your chambers of commerce, from local associations. We end up finding about 200 local links we can get for our clients. Then you want to create content that people will link to. You create guides and checklists and car accident handbooks and things like that that folks will link to, and you can reach out to them and say, hey, we've got this great free guide available on our website. And finally, advanced strategies like creating scholarships and public relations articles. Next up is the C of ABCs, and that's content. I teased a little bit about answering questions. Because if you think about it, nobody goes to a search engine and types in something that they already know the answer to, unless you're personally doing research and you want to see if your website comes up or you type in your own name. But for the most part, when we're searching, we're asking a question, right? Is it worth suing after a car accident? And I mentioned Brian Garrett earlier, and he's coming up #1 in the world in the organic section. So this is an ad, and he has the best answer to the question, is it suing after a car accident? And then Google's showing that people also ask, here's other questions that people might ask that are relevant to that same topic. So if you can come up in this area, you're coming up right at the very top of Google. Well, how do you do that? Well, one of the strategies is we produce a lot of videos where our clients answer questions like, is it worth suing after a car accident? And we've got a video and then a really detailed article that explains the answer to the question. Now, where do you find these questions? And of course, you could just ask Mildred, and everybody's got a Mildred, right? This is Mildred, and she was the gatekeeper, the receptionist at one of our clients' fake law firms. And what we do is we give Mildred a clipboard and a blank sheet of paper, and we ask her, every time someone comes in and asks a question, or every time somebody calls in and asks a question, please do us a favor and write those questions down. And then what we do is we answer those questions in the form of videos and blog posts and FAQs on the website. And that becomes a really great resource of the actual questions that your clients are asking. Here's a tool called AnswerThePublic, which gives you a whole bunch of variants of questions. Like we type in car accident lawyer, and it gives you a whole bunch of variants that you might want to produce on your website. You can get the data from internal search on your website if you have a search box on your website. And you can go out to things like Reddit and Quora and see the kind of questions that people are asking in your category. Next up is Google Maps. And I mentioned before that the A, B's, and C's, the architecture, backlinks, and content, is kind of simplifying SEO. But over the years, it's gotten more and more complex and more connected. And Google introduced a mapping function to make it easy for us to find our way to different places. And a lot of times I go directly to Maps and I'll search iPhone repair near me, or shoe repair near me, or best pizza restaurant in a town I'm in. And the Google Map function is essentially designed to get you somewhere, okay? But we all use it for SEO purposes, because if somebody searches for a personal injury lawyer, the first thing they see in SEO, in free Google, right, because these are paid ads, the first thing they often see is Google Maps. So there's a whole SEO, search engine optimization strategy around getting listed in the Google Maps. Now, this is a tool that represents how well you're doing in that map search. So if we go back here, this is #1, #2, and #3. And this tool is saying that at this law firm's location, they are number one in their Philadelphia law firm. And then if you go in the 1 mile grid, they're number one, number two. We go out a little further, there's some twos and threes, and they're not as good to the south and the far north, but they're pretty good in that 4 or 5 mile grid. Well, this is a great tool that shows if you're doing really well, or here's someone who's doing very, very poorly. They're not even in the top three right at their location, and they're pretty much out of the top 20 in the entire marketplace. So how do you get in the top three? How do you improve your Google Maps SEO? Because this is something that you can affect. This is something that your agency, your web guys can help you out with, and you can do some things on your own. So here's our client and friends, Davis, Saperstein, and Solomon, and they're number one in their area for their Google Maps. So first thing is you're going to SEO optimize your GBP, or what Google calls a Google Business Profile. Now, as a consumer, we call this the Google Maps profile, but Google's got these back-end names for things called GBP. So obviously, you've got to take ownership of your GBP. And if you haven't done that, if you're just one of the newbies and you search your name, a lot of times Google's going to get your business from online business listings, and it can say, are you the owner of this business? And then you claim your GBP. You're going to have to give them a little bit of proof. But then you can do things like ask customers for reviews, get the address right, make sure you've got all they call them products, but in legal, it's practice areas. So you want to add all your practice areas. Question and answers is a great way to get keywords into your Google Business Profile, motor vehicle accidents, and of course, the all-important Google reviews. You want to get lots and lots of folks reviewing your services. So Davis Saperstein is up to 576 Google reviews. Congratulations, guys. They've been working really hard at it. And there's some tips. First of all, make it easy and send the link, send the actual link that you can get here. Like if I clicked here to do a review, it would give me the link. But what you want to do is go into your Google Business Profile, and they'll give you a nice clean link that you can send out to your customers. Or you can use some different software like Birdeye and Podium that make it super easy for your paralegals to get those links. So you want to get lots and lots of links to the website. Then another tip is you can put the Google Maps widget right there on your website. So this is a software that you can put on your website, and it's actually from Google. Think about it. If you actually have the Google software on your website for mapping and finding local businesses, and then Google's looking to see who's a local business in that area, and you've got the Google tool, those two brains are going to connect directly, right? So we want to put that widget on the website. We want to make it super easy, obviously, for people to find your business if they're coming in for an appointment. And then the fourth thing is something we call NAP in the business, name, address, and phone. And so you want to have super consistent, precise, exact naming and address and phone number everywhere on the internet. So your Google is going to be the guide, your Google Business Profile, and then you want everything else to be exact. And we see Davis Saperstein, ampersand Solomon, comma PC appears everywhere throughout the internet on Facebook, Yelp, Super Lawyers, etc. So we look at over 300 different local associations and publications and legal publications to make sure we've got consistency for our clients. You want lots of local links and citations. So a link is actually like an activated, underlined, clickable link to your website. A citation is when someone lists your company and maybe your address, but they don't actually have that activated link. One thing you can do is you can go out and ask for that link. You can reach out to the webmaster and say, hey, you guys listed our website. Thank you so much. Can you actually put a link so folks could come and get more information on the website? But a citation, Google's pretty smart these days. So if somebody lists like Davis, Saperstein, and Solomon, and they're a law firm, personal injury law firm in Teaneck, New Jersey, Google takes that as like a half a vote and gives you some credibility in the algorithm. The final strategy for local maps is actually to have a multi-location strategy. Now, why would Morgan & Morgan, the biggest personal injury law firm in the country, they have a huge head office in Orlando. Why would they have 6 locations for Google Maps all throughout Orlando? And it's pretty simple, right? It's more opportunities to be closer. And part of the algorithm for mapping is proximity and that closeness. So having 6 locations gives them more opportunity to get local links and come up local. And it also gives you 6 locations to have an LSA, or the Google screened local service ads we talked about earlier on. All right, so there's the basics, like there's the ABCs, but it's a new world, right? And we're facing AI in every facet of business today. Of course, Google is not going to leave us alone. Now, first and foremost, ChatGPT really kicked off the ability to ask questions and get the AI to comprise an answer for you. So Google was probably about 6 to 9 months behind ChatGPT, and they're in catch-up mode, but I think they're doing a great job. And essentially what I think they're doing is they're defending their turf. And they're saying, we've got great AI answers for you. You don't have to open a new app and go over to ChatGPT or Perplexity. You can just do your Google searching, and we're going to give you a choice. We're going to give you some ads. We're going to give you the AI answer. We're going to give you the SEO. We're going to give you the maps. And the other thing that I think is really cool, Google's actually showing links where they did their homework, and they're showing the sites they used to compile this answer. But I think what we're going to see, this is Jay's prediction, within 3 months, we're going to start seeing paid ads in this section. But what I think is Google's training us all now, hey, we've got great AI answers. You don't have to go use one of those other tools or an app on your phone. You can just pop it into Google. We'll give you the AI answer. And for now, they're keeping it clean. They're not showing any paid ads. But I think once they train us, they're going to start monetizing this, because frankly, there's $250 billion of search revenue that Google makes. They're going to have to start monetizing these results. And by the way, so is ChatGPT, because it's very, very expensive to do AI. As a matter of fact, it's billions of dollars to run AI queries. And we're going to have to double the grid in the United States to make up for all the AI queries that are coming in by 2030. So it's very, very expensive. So you're going to see that, this is my prediction, we're going to start seeing a lot of paid results combined with the AI answers over the next little while. Now, I teased this a little bit earlier that in the old days, 6 months ago, we did SEO, search engine optimization. But the new game in town is AEO, answer engine optimization. And I've talked about this in the whole ABC section, like basically 10 golden rules. We've been answering questions for 5 or 6 years because Google has rebuilt the algorithm to understand semantics, to understand human language. So basically, we've all been asking questions on Siri, on Google Voice, on Alexa, and we as consumers have learned to ask and answer questions. But these new engines like the ChatGPT, the Groks, the Perplexities, these are designed to answer questions. So the industry is starting to call it AEO. There's a few different things bubbling up, but maybe that'll be the one that'll be the winner going forward. So what are we talking about here? Essentially, what we're seeing is that when you first do a search, when you get in a car accident, there's what we call the cycle of search. And so your first question is, do I really need an attorney after a car accident? Is the insurance company going to pay for my car repairs? And they start asking these we start asking as consumers questions early on in the search, right? Now, the cool thing about these results is that Google has a show more, and this works the same in Maps and LSAs, right? So if we click show more, Google's going to show all the results, and you can scroll down and see many. And here's our client, Jeff McDonald. This is our first client. Congratulations, Jeff, that we saw AEO, answer engine optimization result. Can you get laid off while on light duty? And one of the blogs and the questions we answered shows up. Now, ChatGPT is also doing the same thing. They're now showing their links. I think part of the reason is they were getting a lot of pushback because their engine is learning from all the information on the internet. And they were showing a lot of results that were grabbed from other people's proprietary data. So they were running into like trademark issues or copyright issues. So they started showing their sources as well. So here's my buddy Spencer Ehrenfeld. This is the first one that I saw of a law firm. And then you see like Forbes and Super Lawyers and Avvo and some of the big directory sites. The other way to think about this, I've talked about this for a minute, is what we call the cycle of search or the search funnel. So at the top of the funnel, again, when you just start doing your research, do I need a lawyer? We're going to see a lot more of these AIO type of results. And for the most part, this is where you're seeing these AI results. In the middle of the funnel are things like, okay, Maybe I need a lawyer. Well, how much money can I make? What's the average settlement? And then at the bottom of the funnel, okay, now we've decided we need a lawyer. The insurance company's not playing ball. I can make some money from this and obviously pay for all my car repairs and my medical. And then now I'm going to be very specific. Who's the best car accident attorney in my city? And this is where Google's still showing the LSAs, the paid ads. Google's still going to monetize. You mentioned the city. They're going to show you maps, and the SEO is going to come further down the page. So think of the series, Do I Need a Car Accident Attorney? And so we've been proactively doing question and answer SEO for the last 4 or 5 years. Essentially what we do is we answer a question like, this is Jeff McDonald. What happens if I get hit by an Uber? And we search engine optimize the video on YouTube, meaning we put the title of the exact question that we're trying to target in the search engines. And that becomes the title. And then we use tags and keywords and descriptions. So YouTube is the #2 website in the world. It's way, way, way ahead of ChatGPT. Okay. So Google owns YouTube, and Google and YouTube together still make up like 70 or 80% of the top of the searches on the internet. So the second thing we do is we take that video, we create a blog that's a video blog. We've got the words and the video on a page, which is better than a word only page. We're also going to use those videos in things like social media, the newsletters, and very, very importantly, you want to update your Google Maps like it's its own mini website. You can do SEO. We talked about that earlier. You want to update that on a regular basis. So this strategy allows us to do a video on YouTube. We're doing video optimization on the website. We're doing AEO, answer engine optimization. We're doing search engine optimization. We're knocking off the socials, and we're also covering off Google Maps. The next tip for AEO, answer engine optimization, you want to cover topics comprehensively with detailed examples, explanations, and real examples. But one of the things that's really valuable is write a really good paragraph. This is that example that we saw in the AEO result. Write a really good paragraph right at the top that just has a precise question and answer, and then go into more detail. And then Google can snip, they call it a rich snippet in some of these results. They could snip that information right from the top of your page. Bulleted list seems to come up all the time in AEO. Frequently asked questions is a natural area of your website. Most people put like 4 FAQs, frequently asked questions, when they built their website. You should go back and do 100 FAQs on your website. Also very valuable to become an expert or authority. So we're doing a lot of work with our clients on becoming expert brands in their marketplace, answering questions about things like car accidents or divorce or bankruptcy, whatever category the lawyer's in. So in this case, this attorney got listed on Super Lawyers by writing an article that quotes and links back to her website. We talked earlier about the PR as an authority signal, public relations, and building your local community brand also seem to connect to AEO results. Local links, super valuable. Now, here's a couple advanced tips for the AEO. Number one, publish with regular cadence to become a known entity. Obviously, our monthly webinars, our weekly podcasts work great for this. Getting published in magazines, like we got published in the Pilma magazine, and publishing regularly on the social media gives me the perception out there to the search engines that I'm a bit of an expert if I'm published in industry publications. Create proprietary data. This is a great one. Like if you come up with a survey, a lot of times the ChatGPTs and the Google AEOs are showing the results of the proprietary data that you produce, send out a press release, get a bunch of people to link to the study on your website, and that's a really, really good strategy. Schema code. So we mentioned this earlier. This is the code that Google, Yahoo, and the other search engines came together, and they came up with simplified codes for things like locations. But here's an FAQ, a frequently asked questions page, or an answer or a question and answer. And this is a code that tells Google and the other search engines, this page is answering questions. So you're making it super easy to come up in that area. Here's an article code, and there's several schemas that are going to work really, really well in this AEO. And the final concept is schema stacking. Now, this is a tip for the gurus. Hopefully, you guys haven't thought of this. You're going to use multiple schemas on a page, like an FAQ, a video object, a speakable, an article schema, all on the same page. And final advanced tip, you're going to do summary authority content. So basically what you're going to do is you're going to create short answers on 4 or 5 different places throughout the web about the same question. So top 20 steps to file a personal injury claim. And you're going to answer that in 5 or 6 different places and maybe point back to a guide that you have on your website so that you're positioning yourself as the expert answering one specific question by stacking 5 answers in different places. So to sum up the AI, the artificial intelligence section, so Google is showing 30% of their results right now, and we think it's at the start of the search cycle. Now, obviously, this is going to evolve and this is going to change. So you got to come back. We'll do another webinar in 6 months or so and tell you what we're learning. But the results today say that Google's showing these when people are just doing those initial searches. So if someone says, like, do I need a lawyer after a car accident? In the old days, Google would have shown 5 blogs that answer that question. Now Google's answering the question. So not as many people are going out to your website to read your blog. So your opportunity is to be shown on the right-hand side of that AI result so that Google's linking to your website to get that answer. Of course, answering questions, we've talked a lot about that. Becoming an online expert. So answering questions, writing articles on industry publications that link back to your website, position you as an expert. And of course, you got to answer a lot of questions. So doing those YouTube videos, posting those on social media, LinkedIn, and several industry sites positions you as an expert, seems to affect the results in the AEOs. And then we shared some advanced strategies like schema and stacking schemas and doing summary authority blogging where you answer the exact same question in 5 different places. So that wraps up the ABCs of SEO. I'll take a few questions now. You can just type those into the Q&A or the chat, or if you're on LinkedIn, Elizabeth's over there monitoring. She'll send me your questions from LinkedIn because I can't stream in 2 places. But I'll just sum up quickly while you're getting some questions in. ABCs is A is architecture, the structure of your site, the speed, the schema code, make sure you get those ADAs taken care of, the America's Disabilities Act. B is backlinks, getting links from important, high quality, industry relevant sites throughout the internet that link and make your site more prominent, more important. C is content. And a lot of the content we talked about today is answering questions. That's going to work great for semantic search, where Google understands the human language, and also for the AEO, answer engine optimization. And lastly, we looked at AI, or the answer engine optimization, and some of the things we can do there, obviously answering questions, schema code, and stacking schemas. So without further ado, I'm going to throw up the link to the handbook again. If y'all want to get a free copy, we cover the AI overviews in there, the ABCs of SEO, Google Maps, Google Screen. So there's some really good tips in there and some things that you can hand off to your agency to make sure they get that done. So you can just take a picture of this or go to 10goldenrules.com/hot trends, 2 T's, HOTTRENDS. All right, thank you guys. I see a bunch of questions coming in. So let me go over here to the chat. Okay, what is the biggest mistake companies are making when integrating AI into their SEO workflows? What is the biggest mistake companies are making when integrating AI into their SEO workflow? I think the biggest mistake is just not knowing about it at this point. Even some of my friends in my mastermind, some of the top agencies in the world, we're just having our first masterminds and getting together on it, trying to figure this stuff out. So I think the mistake is not recognizing that this is new, it's important, and getting some of these basic things we talked about in place. Start answering questions, start getting published on other places throughout the internet that link back to your website, get schema code on your website. So not doing some of those basic things would be the first mistake that I see. The next question, Peter from LinkedIn asked, if a law firm had limited time or budget, which of the 3 SEO pillars should they prioritize first and why? So you've got to get the basic architecture right. I mean, obviously, sometimes we get the opportunity to deal with a startup, an attorney who leaves a firm and goes out on his or her own, and we get to build their first website, which is, I love that. It's a lot of fun. And it's a challenge. Like, how quickly can we get them listed for the website, for the Google Maps, Normally, Google will give you some LSAs when you're just starting out. So if you're just starting out, give me a call. I love those. I love working with folks who are just starting their business. And of course, I've been on the journey, so I like to share what I've learned about entrepreneurialism too. So the first thing is you got to get the website, you got to get the architecture right. Make sure the site's fast, make sure it's good for mobile, get your analytics and your Google Search Console set up. Some of the basic things we talked about in architecture. And then the next thing is you need some content. So before I go out and build backlinks, you've got to have something for people to link to. And frankly, a lot of backlinks come from having content. If you create a great article about a new law in your state, and then you reach out to a couple of legal bloggers, say, hey, I broke down this new law that just came out from whatever, the state Supreme Court or whatever, and this ruling, and we broke it down in a long article, a 2,000-3,000 word article on our website. And then some of those legal bloggers or government bloggers will link to your website because you've got a really good explanation of that new law. So first things first, get the architecture right, get the site fast, get it mobile friendly, and get a site. And then C is content, and then you can start getting some backlinks to the website after that. Another question from Carmen, thank you. How should law firms balance traditional SEO tactics with the newer AI-focused strategies like optimizing for AI overviews or ChatGPT? I talked about it a lot today. The simplest thing is answering questions seems to work in both categories. And frankly, it's great for consumers. We've been, like I said, we've been answering questions on video, or our clients have been answering questions on video for many, many years now. And I'll tell you a great story. My friend and client, long-term client, John Pankowski, tells me all this story. He's told me a couple of times. He says, Jay, I love Sundays. I'm like, why do you love Sundays? He says, well, I play softball. And then invariably every Sunday after softball, I check my phone and I've got a message and I call someone back and they say, John, I was watching some of the videos on your website and I know you're the right lawyer for me. And I've tried to figure it out. Like, what's the secret? What's it with Sundays? I said, John, why do you always get these great leads on Sundays? And he said, well, because I'm the only one who takes the leads on Sundays. My intake team takes the leads Monday through Saturday, and then I get the leads on Sundays. But the point here is that answering questions on video, you can get found by the search engines. Then the person's going to watch a couple of videos, but the videos are doing a lot of things, right? They're good for AEO, answer engine optimization. You create a blog with the answer to the question. These are getting ranked in the AEO search engines. They're getting ranked in People Also Ask on regular Google search. They're getting your website ranked. Oh, and by the way, when people watch the videos, it's like they're sitting across from you in your office and they're saying, what do you, John is a probate and trust estate attorney. And they're saying, hey, John, my dad's third wife is suing us in court and we were in the will and he's going to go to court and he's going to represent these folks in a probate matter. So he's answering detailed questions about probate and different laws and different changes in laws. He's done hundreds of these videos, and A, he's coming up in SEO. B, people are watching his videos and giving him a call on Sundays, Mondays, and through Saturday as well. All right, so I think we're almost at time. We got 2 minutes left. So I'll just wrap up and thank you all so much for being here. Hopefully, for those folks watching sometime in the future, you'll give me a shout out. We'd love it if you give us a subscription on the YouTube channel or give us a like on this video, give us the thumbs up. And same thing if you're listening to the podcast, we really appreciate if you subscribe and give us a 5-star review. And with that, I'll thank everyone so much for being here. And I look forward to next month's webinar. I think we're doing the 7 hottest trends for law firm marketing. So we'll see you next month.
Thank you for listening to the 10 Golden Rules of Internet Marketing for Law Firms podcast. Please send questions and comments to podcast@10goldenrules.com. That is podcast@tengoldenrules.com.